Good evening and salutations, my Days of Our Lives fans. So, let's start off with Chanel and Johnny. So, Johnny finally tells Chanel about the offer in LA. And when he tells her the whole thing, as far as he knew for a while, he didn't really sit there and say anything. He was going to sit there and turn down the job and not even sit there and tell her. She got upset, right? Because she was like, we're partners. You're supposed to sit there and tell me this stuff. And also, what makes you thought that I couldn't handle it? Now, I get where Johnny's coming from because there was a lot going on, and once he explained it, she did understand, and she was a lot more calmer after the fact. She because let's be honest, she did actually have a lot going on. Paulina, um, the baby, everything like that, and then to sit there and add the fact that they would have to move away from like everyone that they love all the way to LA was going to be a lot. But at the same time, you probably should have told her anyway. And then at the very least they could have made the decision together. Um so all of that was fine up until a point. That point was when he told her, "Can you make the decision for me?" Are you are you serious right now? Did you really just sit there and say, "Can you make the decision for me?" See, this is the problem that I have with Johnny, you know? Because even something like, options as far as what they should be doing as opposed to him sitting there saying, oh, well, whatever you want, then we'll do it. It's like he just comes across as super pointless of a character, and especially with something like that, oh, you just make the decision for me. And then she had to sit there and spend like 20 minutes because he was self-loathing about how, oh, I don't know if I'm going to make it, this, that, and the third, and what if we go out there and, I'm not as good as I think that I am. I'm like, one, a lack of confidence is not going to get you anywhere. It's not. I can sit there and do this channel. There's a lot of times it may come across as kind of arrogant. But at the end of the day, you have to be your own biggest cheerleader. That's number one. Number two, let's just be honest. Okay? If you don't make it, what's going to happen? Y'all just going to be destitute? Y'all just going to be just stuck in LA just doing this? No, bro. Y'all both rich. Y'all going to be fine. So honestly, and that's another thing that's just so bad, right? Like even like stuff like wine, like if they don't get the job or if they get fired from the job, it's like and they're rich, they're gonna be fine. And that's the thing when he's they're talking about what if I don't make it? Well, I guess you have to go back home to Salem, and just be stuck to sit there living in that rich mansion with your rich dad and I don't know how rich Sammy is, but your rich parents. So damn, that really sucked. So of course he winds up taking a job. Um, Last name was Russo. The director, I guess he was going to be working with Peyton Russo. I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. You know, if you know Russos or the Russos brothers or the Russo sisters, I don't know where they are now, but like, oh, okay, I get the little nod. Now Lucas, because Kay was not there worried about Lucas and everything like that, and Lucas comes in, and Lucas is not there telling Kay, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be free at this point. But you know what? I'd rather actually go back to jail than go back to the monastery. I'm like, what? I was like, really? You'd rather go back to prison where God knows what can happen to you as opposed to you going back to the monastery? Are you just that privileged? Like, I don't understand that. I really don't. I mean, there you have to sit there and pray and this, that, and the third, but you don't have to sit there and worry about you getting shanked or, you know, anything else that I can't sit there and mention on this channel that can wind up happening to you. And he was really, and even after he talked to Julie, he was like, yeah, I guess I'm going to be going back to prison because, I don't know what's going to wind up happening. I'm just like, really, bro? You would really choose prison as opposed to the monastery. Okay, sure. So you got that going on. Oh, well, long story short, he did actually want to come back, and Roman told him that his time was served, that Harris actually came through, because the whole time Katie was like, Kate, not Katie, Kate was like, oh, I knew I should have never trusted Harrison, this, that, and the third. Yeah, he came through. I mean, he was busy. He has other things going on besides your son, so relax. Um, but yeah, that's interesting that Chanel and Johnny are going to be leaving if everything works out. To be honest, I never really cared for them. It's like, okay, aesthetically wise, cool, but as far as things that they have going on, like their biggest thing was the snowstorm, right? That was their biggest thing, was the snowstorm, and we didn't even get to actually see that. That rescue happened offline, and then they had to sit there and deal with the whole possibility. So I guess that was interesting, but up until that point, it was just like I didn't really care about Johnny and Chanel. The most interesting stuff that wound up happening was the stuff with the radiation. And that's saying something because they've been on the show for a while. And the only other time that they were actually interesting before that, well, I don't really care about the love triangle, but I guess they gave him a story. So yeah, Lucas is free and Johnny and Chanel are leaving. Now, my whole thing is, I wasn't around for all the great Lucas stories, but hopefully if they do have him back, they can give him some good stuff. They can give him a good story. Because if you traded out them just to bring him in and you don't actually give him anything, that's going to be a problem. Um, Chad came to tell Julie that Abigail might be alive. And, at first he was in disbelief when he heard it from Clyde, but then when he started talking to Julie, he was like, well, you know, Abby apparently came back once before. Stefan is alive, so yeah, it's totally possible. So he does want up going back to Statesville. I mean, not Statesville. To talk to the Clyde. And the minute he walked in the room, he just walks in. He doesn't even sit there and say anything. Closes the door. He takes the desk and he puts it against the door. And he takes a seat and he pulls it right up to him. And I'm just like, right off the bat, I was like, okay, this is gonna be a great scene. And honestly, to tell you the truth, it was probably my favorite scene in the episode because there's a point where he comes up to him and he starts talking about his wife and his kids and everything like that, and he's like, he's just asking him from one human being to another. He talks about the mother of my kids and everything like that. He grabs him, and he's just very like he literally pours out his soul, right? And there's a point where there's a point where Clyde is just like, do you mind giving me some space? And he backs up and he's like, seeing you all sad and everything like that just kind of takes the fun out of it. Um, and I think that was a really good approach because if he just would have came up to me acting tough guy and being like, what'd you do to my wife? And start yelling and stuff like that, it wouldn't have got nowhere. But I know there was a part of him that did feel bad for Chad in a sense. I mean, you got to remember, Clyde is a very bad man, right? But Clyde also loves, on some extent, his son and his grandson. And I always do believe that when you have room in your heart for any sort of love, that there's always going to be a part of you that's human, right? So when he was sitting there really just being very soulful and talking about his wife and stuff, there was a part of him that was like, yeah, I do feel bad for him. Now he did sit there and say, hey, listen, I need you to do something for me. You want to do something for me first, and we'll sit there and talk after. And then towards the end, he was like, all right, I'll sit there and tell you something, so I need you to really sit there and pay attention or whatever. So tomorrow seems like it's going to be a good episode. Now, before then, you had talking to, um, Rafe talking to Clyde, trying to get information from him as far as Gabby, the release and everything like that. Like who killed Lee? And Clive was like, "Well, I didn't do it." It's like, no. But you're the boss, though. So what about Gil? You gonna give me anything? He was like, maybe I will. Now, granted, this is after he was saying some pretty dickish things like, oh, Gabby in the shower, and I didn't break her leg. I mean, she slipped in the shower. Which I can imagine how Gabby would look in the shower. Things like that to kind of throw him off and get him all riled up and stuff. But he does sit there and say, well, maybe I can help you. Maybe I can help you with that. He does sit there and say, well, so what, the blood on the book isn't enough? That's a shame. But with that being said, Rafe does go to Stefan. Now Stefan is planning on breaking Gabby out. And Kristen's like, wait, what? Stefan explains like there's not really a lot of options. The book isn't working. I can't sit there and rely on Clyde to sit there and be honest. And knowing that I'm the one that turned him in, yeah, it's not going to be good for Gabby. So I need to sit there and do this, and I need to do this tonight. Break her out. We'll leave Salem, and that's the end of that. And Kristen's like, yeah, that's not happening. You're going to help me um, take over the company, take over EJ's job. And if you don't, I'll just simply tell Gabby that you want to sleep with Ava. Now, in reality, Kristen wound up doing him a favor, right? Because it'd be better to get Gabby out the right way than to have her just on the run, you know? Yeah, there's a good possibility that Clyde could sit there and do something to Gabby, or maybe not. But y'all gonna be on the run for the rest of your life. That's gonna be no way for her to sit there and live, and to even sit there and see her daughter, if that's even possible. So in the end, Kristen actually wound up doing him a favor. And he's like, all right, fine, I'm not going to sit there and do it. But Rafe does come over there, and Rafe is like, listen, I can't do anything. But maybe if you want to do something to try to, help grease the wheels with Clyde, I didn't see anything pretty much. I can't do anything as the commissioner, but you're a private citizen. You're a demerit. So, anything you can do will wind up helping pretty much. And he tells him that without actually saying it, and he leaves. So pretty much just kind of giving Stefan the green light to do whatever Demerit's going to do to kind of get the situation done. Which is like, bro, your last name is Demerit. You got to come through on some level. Yeah, I feel like that's pretty much about it. Wasn't like the most action-packed, suspenseful episode, but I thought it was a decent episode. Though. I thought it was pretty decent. So if you didn't watch it, definitely give it a watch. If I missed anything, you know what to do. Come to the live stream tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We'll sit there and talk about all the shows, Days of Our Lives, Bold and Beautiful, Young and the Restless, and General Hospital. And with that being said, I'm gonna go. I'll see you in the next video.